I didn't like chili as a kid. It was tomatoey and spicy and full of beans. When my family got Skyline chili for dinner, I'd eat a baked potato. Then in my late teens, I decided to give a bunch of foods that I'd previously written off another try. On paper, it was clear that I should like chili dogs, so I started getting them from Skyline. I even tried eating them with mustard for a stretch. When I was 21, I found myself at the Global Gallery coffee shop, getting ready to play an acoustic set for 5 people, and ordered their Women's Bean Project vegan chili. They put a little sour cream and cheese on top, so I guess it wasn't vegan when I ate it. Of course, these beans were fresh, not canned, the spice was perfect, and I was starving. To this day, it was the best chili I've ever had. Plus, it went to a good cause. Look up Women's Bean Project. They're a cool group who gives opportunities to people who might have trouble finding work otherwise. But I'm not a chili expert. That's why I've got interviews with my friends Carl Koenig and Anthony Howard about their chili recipes, as well as a few voicemails from listeners named Chris.
What's up, Kendall? This is Chris. You asked if I had thoughts on chili, and I do have thoughts on chili. Specifically Cincinnati-style chili, which I believe to be chili on top of spaghetti, is a brilliant idea, and I love it. I first had Cincinnati chili at Steak and Shake, which may not be the most authentic Cincinnati-style experience, but that's still my favorite that I've had. I went to Skyline for the first time at Gen Con this year, and the Cincinnati-style chili was somewhat underwhelming to me. I enjoyed their coney dogs, but I probably would not order their Cincinnati-style chili again. Beans or no beans, I'm mostly a no beans guy, especially when it comes to specifically Cincinnati. I'm not dogmatic about it, like some people saying, oh, if it has chili or if it has beans, it's not chili. But I also don't like when chilies are too tomatoey. Like big chunks of tomato are kind of a turnoff for me, or finding beans in Cincinnati style, like I said before, is not great. But I like it well spiced, even on the spicy side. There's a local diner that makes a chili using the leftovers from their brisket that I really enjoy as well. My wife puts ketchup on chili, for which I castigate her at every opportunity, so don't do that. My favorite chili that I can think of, there was a place that sold coney dogs near my high school, and they were my favorite hot dogs I've ever had, and I've been chasing that high ever since and have not found it. Sadly, the man was kind of old when I was in high school, so I assume he is not with us anymore, and certainly the business is not with us anymore. But I wish I'd asked for his recipe. So those are my chili thoughts. I hope you have a great podcast.
Yeah, so I'm here with Carl Koenig, and we're going to talk about some chili. So first of all, what are your culinary bona fides? What's your history with like cooking or whatever?
So growing up, it was pretty lean times, and my mom was a very, very good cook, and she became an expert on whatever the manager special or the Kroger yellow label was. And there's a few things that you can make that you can really stretch and make really good, and you don't realize that you're eating very, very cheap. Chili was one of them. So in the winter, we would eat a lot of chili because it's not that expensive to make.
Okay. What are your what are your chili hot takes? Beans, no beans, what kind of Cincinnati chili with the cinnamon, like what are your opinions?
While I like Cincinnati chili, for me it's got to be, something that has tomato, like tomato paste or tomato sauce, has to have beans, has to have both hamburger and some type of beef, which I'll get to when I get to my chili. And if you're not using beer to make your chili better, you're doing it wrong.
Okay. So how did you so speaking of your chili,
Mm-hmm.
how did you develop your recipe?
So it started with, take your kidney beans, your red beans, take some hamburger, put some tomato sauce in there, and then come up with seasoning. And then started adding a few things. And then the king of Flavortown himself, Guy Fieri, had a cooking show where he made a version of this. And I never thought to actually take the entire can of beans and the brine and use that. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting. So I started looking at his recipe that he posted and then modified it slightly. He calls for pork in his, and I like to take a chuck roast, or if you feel really bougie, if you get an entire beef tenderloin and all the trimmings, you can take that and put filet mignon in your chili, and now you're talking about some really, really good chili. But if you don't have that, just get a chuck roast, cut it into small chunks, and use that to replace the pork. And from the seasoning and spices, coriander, very underrated in chili, but very good.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Uh, so yeah, take us through how do you okay, so now we're past the part of the article that everybody skips, and now
Mm-hmm.
we're to the part of the article where you actually tell us how to make it. So
Yes.
so what's the process?
I always start by making the spice mixture, which is chili powder, paprika, cayenne, coriander, cumin, salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, white pepper, and a little bit of nutmeg. Put that together, proportions. I eat a lot more chili powder than everything else. The rest, kind of just figure it out. And then take a chuck roast, cube it into 1 inch pieces. Take a pound of bacon, slice that into small lardons because you want to use those for toppings. So the first thing you do is you render off the fat from the bacon. While that's going, you chop up your peppers and onions. I usually use 2 red peppers, 2 green peppers, a poblano, and then a whole medium white onion. Once the bacon is finished rendering, you put the chuck roast that you put into the 1 inch pieces. You put that in to sear it so it gets like a really good brown color and develops some fond and gets brown and crispy and delicious. Take that out and then you add 1.5 to 2 pounds of just ground beef. I usually use 80/20. Again, you're just trying to brown it. It's going to cook for a long time, so you're not, but you want to get good flavor on it. Take that out, and then you sweat down all of your vegetables, and then you add some tomato paste with the vegetables once they're done. Stir that around, let it get some color, and then the first thing you add to deglaze the pot is take your favorite beer and use that. After you take, you have to do some quality control testing and drink it, of course. Once that has gone and you've scraped down the bottom, you add some chicken stock and you add all the meat back in, and then you add the canned beans and their brine in, along with a little bit of tomato sauce. You've already put the tomato paste in. Keep adding your seasoning on every layer. So when you add the beef, you put some of the seasoning powder in, meat, all of it, so every layer. And then you bring it up to a simmer, let it go for 2 to 3 hours in a high-sided Dutch oven, and you're basically just trying to make sure that the beef that you put in gets really, really tender. Take it off the heat, put it in a bowl, add some of that bacon that you had as a garnish, sour cream, cheese, scallions, whatever you want, and yeah, you're in heaven.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, I usually reserve it for big Ohio State football games. Sorry if those don't know, I'm from Ohio, or just big events like when families coming into town, because it's a labor of love. If you're using filet mignon, it's very expensive, but a chuck roast isn't too bad. But it just takes a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for sharing that. That sounds, yeah, like I said, it sounds amazing. How long would you say that it took you to develop that? Like, was it? Yeah. How long have you been doing it?
I've been making a form of chili since I was in my 20s, so like over 20 years. This version, I would say like 8 years ago is
Okay.
when I really kind of perfected it and said, I don't like the pork. I put chuck roast in. So,
Okay.
yep.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. I will or I don't know how to end these segments. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Something I don't know. I don't know. I'm not used to doing podcasts that have segments because
I would just
this is
fade
like
to black at this point.
middle segment. Yeah, yeah. Fade to black at some point. Yeah.
Five-alarm chili, eh? One, two. Hey, what's the big idea?
Oh, I admit it. It's only 2 alarm. 2.5 tops. I just wanted to be a big man in front of the kids.
Daddy, are you going to jail?
We'll see, son. We'll see.
Hey, Kendall, it's Chris from Atlanta. Been listening to your show for quite a while. I love it. I just listened to the hot dog episode, and you said you're going to do a follow-up on chili. There's a really great place you got to try if you come to Atlanta. It's called Brandy's World Famous. It's actually in Marietta, suburb a bit north of Atlanta, but this place has the best chili. It is hot, spicy. It's not too spicy. It's just right. This place has been there for 40, 50 years. It is, a local, treasure. And it's cheap too. You can get a chili dog for, I want to say $2.50. You can do a slaw dog for, I think, $2.70. You can do a chili, they have, chili cheese, hamburgers as well. Yeah, it's amazing. It's definitely better than the Varsity. I think the Varsity is overrated. But anyways, thanks, Kendall. Come check us out here at Brandy's World Famous in Atlanta. Look forward to the next episode.
So okay, so I guess I don't know how we're gonna start how this is gonna go. But anyway, we'll just go with it. All right, I'm here with Anthony Howard, also known as Bat Mouse. We're talking about chili. So first of all, let's get your bona fides. What you know, what are your what's your
Qualifications.
culinary background? You know, why did I bring you on this call?
You brought me on this call because I started the food porn channel on our Slack, and I really started that as a dumping ground for, hey guys, this is what I'm cooking. Take a look, and if you have any insights, and it's blown up to daily. Oh, everybody's eating this, and we should have a conversation about what is a sandwich. So I started in the kitchen probably about at the age of 8. For context, I will be 40 in December of 2023. So I've been in the kitchen for 31, 32 years almost. My dad was a chef trainer for the Marriott Corporation. And as such, we, acquired a lot of friends in the restaurant industry and business. And so I started with him, and then, over the summers was, oh, well, hey, Mouse has nothing to do for the summer. How about he comes and apprentices, and he'll peel your potatoes and make your sauces, and you can teach him whatever you want to, up to including ice sculpture and flambe and all these other great things. So I spent a lot of time doing that, and then I went to culinary school. I graduated that program to get my little piece of paper, because I'd already been doing it professionally, but you need that little piece of paper a lot of the time.
Mm.
And then they asked me to come on and join their staff, and I joined their staff for a year at the school, and then I decided that wasn't where I was going to spend the majority of my time, and then I ran off. And while I stayed making food, it was mainly for my family or friends or kind of an underground thing. After having also run kind of a meal prep and a private chef and private party experience for a few years, that now I had children, I got married, I lost kind of the passion and drive to pursue it. And then COVID hits, and I decide, oh, I can start cooking again. And then I restarted my catering company, and I've been going gangbusters ever since.
All right, cool. So chili. So I guess I don't know. I wanted to talk about chili for this episode, and I don't know anything about chili that much. But what are your thoughts? What makes a good chili?
What makes a great chili is depth of flavor, where you balance the actual taste and flavors to heat. Just having spicy food, a spicy chili, doesn't really appeal to me unless it is also extremely flavorful to counterbalance both. And if you can manage to do spicy and flavorful together, I love it. There's also a big debate that goes back and forth over beans or no beans in chili. And I'm a no beans in my chili kind of guy. I have no problem if you also have beans and you do them on the side, but like mine doesn't have beans until the very end. And that is because my wife likes beans, and I decided to put them in there for her.
Yeah, that's sometimes you gotta do that.
You have to compromise your values.
The other controversy, I guess, about chili. I'm coming from Ohio, where we put cinnamon in our chili. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the Ohio tradition of cinnamon and sometimes even dark chocolate in chili?
I mean, that throws back to so for me, I have my Spanish side, my Mexican side, and so there's dark moles, there's cinnamon in a lot of things. They're deep flavor. Like when you do a birria, you're gonna some people are gonna go with chilies and cinnamon, and you're just adding more flavor. You're adding more depths of flavor. I don't see it as a controversy. I just know that there is none in mind.
Okay. I gotcha. Being very diplomatic there. All right, so talk to me about your chili. How did you develop the recipe?
So this is kind of taking all the flavors that I've loved over the years and kind of just doing what chili is, just throwing it in a pot and see what sticks. My dad was a big fan of Bob's Big Boy had chili spaghetti, and that is like a meaty, beefy kind of just dark sauce chili, which I love. We also loved Wiener Schnitzel, and you love hot dogs. I love hot dogs. So
yeah.
chili cheese dogs are great. But those are they're kind of too runny for me, and they're not really full of meat. They're not full of depths of flavor. There's no real layer of flavor as you progress through your chili. And so I set out to really build flavor layer by layer as I could. So building layers and layers is, you're gonna sear off your meat, and then you're going to do your vegetable in that. You're gonna do your trinity, and just build depth on top of depth. Bay leaves and chili peppers and everything, and you're just gonna kind of bounce back and forth. And so I got there kind of trial and error. But I'm really happy with where I got to as well, though.
All right. So before you tell us about arriving, you talk about trial and error. What were some errors that you ran into? What was some stuff that didn't work?
Stuff that didn't work was I tried I took the Cajun Trinity approach like early, which you go your onion, your bell pepper, your celery, and then I started adding garlic and tomato paste and those thing, and then trying to figure out a roux to like bind them all together to give me like a little bit of thickness. But the error comes in, oh, I burned the roux and now it's all ruined. um, the error comes in, oh, I added I broke my roux by adding too much stock, or beef broth, and then everything that I've just spent the last 20 minutes plus on has all come undone in a matter of seconds. So a lot of errors along the way, and then flavors that just like didn't really work well together. At least for my palate, at least for my family's taste. Getting chilies that were too hot, getting chili that really didn't add anything. Rehydrating my chilies and then leaving them on the side until I'm literally about to serve and going, oh, well, that was a waste.
All right, so take me through how do you make your chili? This is the part we got through that part of the article where you click on the recipe and you read all the stuff that you skip. This is the real part. How to talk about how you make your chili.
So I start my chili with cubing down my chuck roast because I like chuck it had nice like fatty kind of meat, and so it really full of flavor. So I start with chuck roast to in my pan, sear that off. Once you're seared brown, you got like a nice color all the way through. I'm gonna set that off to the side. Then I'm gonna do my Texas holy trinity of onion, jalapenos, and garlic. Okay. Come through, sweat those, and then I'll pull that from the pan. Then I'll set up my roux because I don't want to overdo my garlic and my jalapenos because I don't want to turn the flavors kind of bitter, which can happen when you overcook them too much. But then I come back, I make my roux, and I let that get to a deep kind of caramel, like almost burnt, kind of like you're doing like a gumbo. And then I'll come back with my my veggies, add in some tomato, have some tomato paste, and then just a real like braise basically. And I'll add beef stock and start really adding on layers of flavor. And then I missed the part where I actually seasoned my meat. But I started out with the super light garlic, salt, black pepper, chili pepper, and paprika on my chuck roast before I seared it off. And then as I pull it off to the side, then I add like a little bit of cumin and just some of the other like great like flavor boosters. And then I'll get it all back into the pot, let it braise off, and just set it aside, let it go, a couple hours until that chuck roast had broken all the way down. And I'm kind of just keeping an eye on it because I want it to kind of thicken, but not too much. because I realized through my process that like, oh, I still want that ground beef kind of texture that you get with chili. So, but I saved that for the end. And that's where like adding beans back in kind of like worked for me. So about 2 hours in to my chili, my chuck roast has broken down really nice and helped break it down. I actually come back with an immersion blender.
Okay.
And I kind of I blend that all down because I want that like thickness, but I want it all just like chili, just like one solid state. And that's where I was losing texture.
Right.
But then I came back and I did, I did some pinto beans that I already had them going off to the side in a separate slow cooker. But I took them and I browned off another couple pounds of ground beef, and then in my browning process, I started throwing in, ladling in beans to have them pick up the flavor from the ground beef, and then that all goes back in my chili, and that's where my actual texture comes from. And then another round of jalapenos, a whole bunch more cayenne pepper, adjusting flavors and adjusting seasoning right at the end, to kind of get the like perfect bite for me.
Right. Yeah. That's key. That's key.
And because when you blend down your chuck roast and all your other braising liquid, kind of you can blend it too much and it gets really thin. But you still kind of want that like meaty chunkiness, but not where you're just eating literally just big globs of beef and nothing else really. Like you just don't want to just be like eating like gravy and beef. You're looking for complex flavors.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, that sounds amazing. Excellent. Just like, oh, wait a second. I have another bit for you that I don't know if this is going to be either every single person that I talk to is going to answer these questions or you're the only one. I haven't decided.
Sounds good.
But you know how when I do my Star Wars card podcasts, I have a list. I have the Pivo questionnaire. Well, I developed it for food. So interpret these questions any way that you would like. Probably some of them don't make sense, so we'll just go with it. What is your favorite food?
My favorite food, my interpretation of favorite food, mac and cheese.
What is your least favorite food?
Really bad mac and cheese.
I hear that. Because hot dogs are probably my favorite, and if you have a bad enough hot dog, there's nothing worse. What is an ingredient that you love to cook with?
Garlic.
What's a food that you can't quite figure out?
Curry.
What's your go-to curse word when you make a mistake in the kitchen?
Oh. Yeah, that's hard because I mean it's really your like the moment.
Right.
Fuck is probably going to be the best one, but there are a lot of times that just shit is the correct answer.
Okay. What's a dish that you love when others make it for you?
Oh, chicken parmesan.
What's a dish that you only trust yourself to make?
Alfredo sauce.
What's a dish, given the right pay and hours, that you'd be happy to make as a career?
All of those are my career. As a caterer and a private chef, you can pay me a lot to make very little, or pay me a little to make a lot, and I'd still be happy.
Okay.
I've done both.
Okay. What's a dish that you'd only ever make for yourself, friends, and family? You would never make professionally.
I have I have a veggie ragu that I love, and I'll serve to one client, but I hate making it. It's still very good. I just hate making it, and I would never do that professionally otherwise, other than the one client.
Okay. And finally, if time, money, and geography didn't matter, what would you have for dinner tonight?
I don't know. I think I might have to have a bowl of Skyline chili.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thanks again. Well, we will. That is a great way to end the episode. Special thanks to Carl Koenig, Anthony Howard, and our 2 voicemail participants. I'll end the podcast with my personal chili recipe. It's nothing special, but might be a good place to start. Start with a packet of Kinder's chili seasoning. Obviously, you could use other seasoning or actually add chili powder and the 37 other spices that people like Carl use, but I've had a lot of luck with Kinder's products, and the chili seasoning is no exception. 1 pound beef, half a pound sausage. Beer, I used 8 ounces of 3 Floyd's Momoko Stout that had been in my fridge for 4 months, but I'd probably use less or a weaker beer in the future. 1 jalapeno, 1 Poblano pepper, 1 onion, 1 can of black beans, most of a bag of frozen corn, a can of tomato paste. The bear told me that the smaller cans taste better. A can of diced tomatoes. Brown the beef and the fresh vegetables. Add the chili packet and the wet and canned ingredients and simmered for about 90 minutes. It came out pretty good. There was enough for my wife and I to have a meal, to share some with my parents, to freeze 2 bowls for future meals, and to freeze an ice cube tray worth for chili dogs. Next time on the show, we'll be doing more general episode about cozy crock pot or fall/winter foods. Feel free to call in, share your comfort food recipes, or just talk about your favorite comfort foods at 267-536-2278 or 267-KENCAST. Destruction leads to a very rough road, but it also breeds creation. An earthquake's hard to a girl's guitar, they're just another good vibration. And tidal waves couldn't save the world from Californication. They are surging very well to break the spell of aging. Sicker than the rest, there is no test, but is that what you're craving? Firstborn unicorn, hardcore softball. Dream of Californication. Dream of Californication. Dream of Californication. Dream of Californication. This podcast is a production of the Kendallcast Podcast Network. If you'd like to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/KendallCast or make a direct donation through the PayPal link at kendallcast.ninja. Thanks for listening.